It is your planet. It is my planet. It's our planet. It's mostly my planet. And ain't no burkas on this here planet, baby. Hog, nah. Planet Hog, baby. Yes, indeedy. Back in it. Back in it. How are you? Hello. And salutations on this beautiful Monday evening here down in the Sunshine State, home of Ron DeSantis and the Donald himself. I'm talking about Florida, baby. Yeah. Anyhow, I hope everybody's had a wonderful day. And I'm going to go ahead and jump on in with this thing today because I like to keep somewhat of a serious tone and just out of respect for the topic. So today we are actually going to talk about, as you can see there, Switzerland is putting their foot down and saying no burkas in public, no burka. You know, it's interesting when I was searching for this, because later I'm actually going to talk about the war on words and this game that the left likes to play. It's not a game, it's a war that they wage on words, their definitions, their applications, how they can just kind of swap in and swap out definitions in certain words and just kind of maneuver things to fit the meaning to what they want at that time. So I want to talk about that. We'll talk about that as it pertains to a specific word here at the end. But along those lines, when I was doing the search for this article, I'd already read it, but I was trying to find it for the computer screen so I can cite it for you guys. As always, everything that I reference here will be down in the description for you to peruse at your leisure. Now, as I was searching for this article, I punched in, it was like Switzerland burqa ban or something like that. And 3 articles pop up. So NPR, which is where we are, CNN, and the BBC. So the headline for this one uses the word burqa. The one for CNN and BBC used the term face covering. See, and that's the game. That's framing. Because we're not talking about face coverings. We're not talking about COVID masks. We're talking specifically about burqas. We're talking specifically about something that is attributed to a specific religion. But they can't do that because they spent all this time saying Islam good, Islam peaceful. So we are on NPR.org, and the headline reads, Switzerland approves burqa ban to prohibit some face coverings in public. And we're in it. Swiss voters approved a proposition Sunday banning facial coverings in public. Niqabs and burqas, worn by almost no one, even among the country's Muslim population, will be banned outside of religious institutions. The law doesn't apply to facial coverings for... there we are. The law doesn't apply to facial coverings for health reasons. See, that makes it even more deceptive, the words chosen by the BBC and CNN. Because when you see face covering, most people would think COVID, unless they had the context of Muslim extremism. So they would think, okay, they're just doing what the South's doing, saying no facial coverings for COVID. Well, they're stupid, but they want you to think that anyway, but because they're cracking down on the Muslims. So they get the same result without actually having to tell people the truth. It's very interesting. Anyway, continuing, Switzerland will join several European countries that have implemented a ban on facial coverings, including France. And yeah, France, for those of you who do not know, because our news won't cover it, for the reasons I stated previously, France has been under siege, in a matter of speaking, in terms of these Islamic terrorist attacks. In October of last year, and I will include an article for this in the description, a woman was beheaded in a church, and I think 2 other people got killed in that same instance by a knife-wielding Muslim yelling out their catchphrase, Allah Akbar, cluckbuck. So that happened in October. And then recently, I want to say it was within a week's time, maybe a week and a half, a teacher who was trying to teach kids about freedom of speech had a cartoon representation of Muhammad that some student didn't like, so she made a big fuss about it, and then the teacher got beheaded in Paris. So there you go. Which, by the way, kudos to that man, that teacher who did that, because he's got more balls than Seth MacFarlane as far as I'm concerned. We sit back and watch all these edgy comedies. They have their fun with Christianity. They make fun of Judaism. They'll make Jesus a jackass character on their show. They'll make God a jackass character on their show. Where's Muhammad? See, that's what I don't respect. That's what I don't like. That's that pussy shit. That's that, I'm racy. I can do this. I can walk right up to that edge. But no, you don't. You really don't. You play where it's safe. And that's a hallmark of anything left. Feminists, raise all this hell here. Women have so many rights here. There's a vice president that's a woman here. Why don't you go over to like Saudi Arabia where they can't drive? That seems like a place that needs your help. But you won't go. Why? Because as soon as you get off that plane, your ass is going to cover up or they're going to stone you. And you don't really want that smoke. You just want the accolades without having to put in any of the work. You want the attention. You want all the notoriety that comes with it, but you don't want to actually do it. And along those same lines, fuck it. Since I'm ranting right now, along those same fucking lines, I don't want to hear another motherfucking thing from any of these when COVID is over, if it ever is. For a lot of us, it is. I don't want to hear another word from any of these punk-ass metal groups, any of these hard rockers, any of these rock stars, any of these rappers, people talking about, I'm going to do what I want to do, and the government can't make me do shit. Fuck the government, fuck the police, man can't make me do nothing. Where have you been throughout all this? Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Where are you? Nobody. The only people who have actually been speaking up are all the old heads. Because I guess they were actually living the shit they were singing. But I don't want to hear none of these got all these tattoos and trying to project that bad boy image. But when it comes down to it, where are you? At home with your mask on, watching CNN, shitting yourself. So, fuck all of them. Anyway, so back to France. Yeah, back to France. So France, they've had their run-in, so I'm not surprised that France is instituting part of these groups that's instituting a ban. I think France is actually going to do a little bit more as well. And I mean, rightfully so. Here it is. You got these people who come from a shitty country, right? The situation is bad. That's why you left, which there's something to be said for that too, because no matter how bad it gets here, I was born here. I'm going to die here. So, I don't know. When you jump ship, it's hard for me to respect that. I get it. It's bad. I get it. But I don't know. And maybe it's just because I was born in the right time, in the right place. Maybe that's a blind spot that I have. And I'm willing to admit that if that's what it is. But it just seems a little cowardly to me to run away. Because again, like I said, no matter how bad it gets here, this is where I'll be. But anyway, you ran away. You went to a country that your lineage had no part in building, but you want to partake in their successes. And they allow it. And this is how you repay them. Anyhow, moving forward. So Switzerland will join several European countries that have implemented a ban on facial coverings, including France, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Austria. The new legislation was brought to the ballot through a people's initiative launched by the nation's right-wing Egerken Committee. The same group that led the charge to ban minarets over a decade ago, the Swiss Broadcasting Corporation reported. In 2017, the group presented over 100,000 signatures to the government and demanded the issue be brought to a national vote. The Swiss government opposed the nationwide initiative as excessive and argued that such bans should be decided by individual regions, two of which already have a burqa ban in place. All right. So if it wants to be decided by individual regions, that just seems like a punt to me. That seems like the government didn't want to get their hands dirty. So, let states decide. Okay, especially if two of them already have it. The ban barely passed a majority vote, with 51.2% of the Swiss voting in support of the proposal. Only 6 of the country's cantons, similar to states, voted against the proposition, according to the SBC. One of the largest backers of the initiative was the Nationalist Swiss People's Party, which applauded the outcome of the vote and called the new measure a, quote, a strong symbol in the fight against radical political Islam, end quote. Well, that is a measured attack. Radical political. That's very specific. It's not a sweeping generalization, but they'll still be called Nazis. The quote continues. The burqa creates a barrier between the person wearing it and the environment and thus prevents integration into society. It's an interesting take. That's the end of the quote. Swiss People's Party president, good God, man. Swiss People's Party's president, Marco Chiesa, said in a statement. Some feminist groups and progressive Muslims reportedly were supporters of the initiative, arguing that full face coverings are oppressive to women. Sure. Whatever you need. Whatever. Sometimes you got to put the medicine in a little applesauce, if you catch my drift. I'm going to stop and lubricate the bearings real quick. Here we go. All right. Other groups felt that the new restriction was Islamophobic. There's the word. And we're coming back to that word. Was Islamophobic in that women should not be told what to wear. So they found a fence and they sat on it, right? Because they said, well, you can't tell them not to wear that. That's Islamophobic. Okay, so wear it. Well, no, women shouldn't be told what to wear. Okay, so find a fence and sit on it. The Islamic Central Council of Switzerland said the results were, quote, Islamophobically motivated. Today's decision, this quotation continues from the Islamic Central Council of Switzerland. That's a terrifying organization. Okay. Today's decision is tearing open old wounds, expanding the principle of legal inequality, and sending a clear signal of exclusion to the Muslim minority, end quote. The group wrote, as violins played. No. Researchers found that at most a few dozen Muslim women wear full face coverings in Switzerland. About 5% of Switzerland's population of 8.6 million is Muslim, the BBC reported. Swiss authorities now have 2 years to draft the legislation, according to the Associated Press. And that's the end, folks. So, for the remainder, I want to talk to you about that word they threw in there, Islamophobic. What is that word? Well, I guess we'd have to have a baseline of understanding what a phobia is. And it just so happens I have it pulled up. Like how that works. So we're on Healthline. Well, actually, this is just a basic Boolean search in a search engine. I don't think this might be a keyword. I don't know. I don't remember which kind of search this is. But anyway, just punch the word in. I forgot the word, the big fancy word for it. Just punch in the word phobia. It'll pop up. So we have Healthline right here. And it says a phobia is an irrational fear. That's an interesting qualifying word right there. Irrational fear of something that's unlikely to cause harm. A phobia is an irrational fear of something that's unlikely to cause harm. And some of you already see where this is going. So let's go somewhere else. We did Healthline. Let's look at, Harvard has a definition. Well, if Harvard has it. A phobia is a persistent, excessive, unrealistic fear of an object, person, animal, activity, or situation. Now, see, that's very interesting. Because if we look up the word Islamophobic, that definition reads, first of all, you ever notice when they throw these words around like xenophobia, Islamophobia, homophobia, any of the phobias they created, they can never really define and nail down what it means. They can just tell you when they see it. That's a problem. If I want you to change your behavior because of this thing that I create that I can't even define, but I can point it out, why wouldn't you question that? I don't even have to define it. I can just say, nope, stop doing it. That's it. That you just did it right there. Stop it. It's not meant to correct your behavior. It's meant to coerce your behavior. But anyhow, let's look at Islamophobia. Surely it says something about unrealistic fear of something that's not likely to cause harm. Let's see what we have here. Oh, it says dislike of or prejudice against Islam or Muslims. So there's nothing about irrational fear. It says nothing about people unlikely to cause harm. Because if we're using the word phobia, it should have what a phobia is. The only thing that should be added is the Islam part. All right, well, maybe that was a mulligan. We'll give him a mulligan on that. Let's go to homophobia. Let's see what that is. Dislike of or prejudice against gay people. Oh, there it is again. So at least their verbicidal recreation of the word phobia is consistent. Problem is, you left out a big piece. And the big piece, for those who missed it, is irrational. A phobia is an extreme or irrational fear. Let me go to the other one on Healthline. A phobia is an irrational fear of something that's unlikely to cause harm. So we have qualifiers in there. And if you were born after 9/11, hell, if you were born before I was born before 9/11, but I lived through it. If you lived through any of these Muslim terror attacks and you're afraid of Muslim people and Islam subsequently as a result of that, that's not irrational. That is not irrational. If I can point to something that happened and say, I'm afraid of these people because I saw them fly a fucking plane into a building twice. And then I saw them fly a plane into the goddamn Pentagon. That's why I'm terrified of these people. That's not irrational. Sorry, it's not. Has the killing stopped? Nope. And you can apply that to more than Islamophobia. If a person said, "Oh well, I don't not really comfortable around gay people." Why is that? Well, their behavior leads to AIDS. Oh, there's science there. That's not irrational. Fearing for your own safety, as long as you are not taking overt actions to actively suppress other people, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And in some cases, there's an asterisk with that too. There's an exception to every rule. But for the most part, no, people have a right to be averse to certain things, especially when said things are attached to negative behaviors that most humans deem averse. Or I should say adverse. So this whole notion of Islamophobia, well, you can throw homophobia in there too. You can throw xenophobia in there too. Is that the irrational fear of immigrants? Well, is it irrational to worry about jobs? Is it irrational to worry about crime? Is it irrational to worry about undocumented people who you don't know anything about other than they will break the law when it suits them, right? Because they're here. Is it irrational to be, oh, just a little wary of that person? No, it's not. That's the answer. No, it is not. But again, this isn't about correcting behavior. It's about coercing behavior. So, and again, that's the game that gets played, that not enough conservatives pay attention to. Because if I can diagnose you with a phobia, which is a clinical diagnosis, this is we're in the field of psychology now. Or maybe psychiatry. We're in one of those psycho fields. Psychiatry, psychology, one of them. The point of the matter is, if I can diagnose you with it, then I can prescribe treatment for it. Now, that could be therapy. There's an interesting therapy called exposure therapy that they love to give to people who have phobias. Ooh, wonder what exposure therapy would be for somebody with homophobia. Wonder what that would be. That sounds delightful. Then there's counseling. But then there's also medication. We can put you on medication for your Islamophobia. And once we diagnose you with it, if you don't take your medication, well, then we can put you in a facility where we medicate you ourselves. And again, this hasn't happened yet, but this is literally how you lay the groundwork for that. They're giving you a clinical diagnosis because of your natural reaction to a religion that is far and away the most violent one on earth. Not even close. And people say, oh, the Christian Crusades. The Christian Crusades were in response to the Islamic Crusades that were already underway and actually continued after the Christian Crusades ended. People don't realize we've been dealing with radical Islam for a long time. We were dealing with radical Islam during the American Revolution. They would kidnap ships. They would hijack ships. So this is not a phobia, okay? This is something that has been proven. This is something that continues to happen. For God's sakes, they're beheading people in 2021. Anyway, folks, that's what I got for you today. So, just look, we have to start standing our ground on this shit. We really do. And people got to start speaking up. I mean, you see me with what? 14 of you, 20 of you, 30 of you, 40 of you, whatever. But we can't expect the things to change if nobody's willing to do anything. If it's like, okay, we're just going to wait on these handful of people to go do their thing and fight this battle. You're not paying attention to who we're up against. It's going to take all hands on deck. Everybody doing their part. I'm not saying everybody needs to start a channel, but, look, people need to speak. Speak up. I reject that word. I reject the word Islamophobia. I reject the word xenophobia. I reject the word homophobia. Anytime they're used, I correct them immediately. I don't care where I am. If they're used towards me. If somebody wants to say it about themselves, whatever.